Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Future is Bilingual podcast. My name is Heather. I hope you're all doing well today. Now, whether this is your first time tuning in or you've listened to all the episodes so far, thank you so much for being here and being part of this community. Today's episode is a bit on the longer side. It's one I recorded with my good friend and co host Marcin. And if you guys have heard any of the episodes we recorded together, you know that we struggle to keep things brief. And this topic in particular of creating an immersive environment is one that we are both passionate about and one we're trying to implement into our own lives. So we had a lot to say. Now, while I have your attention, I just want to mention that this is the last episode of season 2, and I'll be taking a break for the summer from publishing. But don't worry, we'll be back with more episodes in the fall. So I wish everybody a wonderful and restful summer with lots of family time and time with those that you love. And please enjoy this long episode. Take it in small doses, pause us whenever you need to, or go out on a walk, go do the dishes, just sit down and have a rest with a cup of coffee or tea. Do whatever it is that you do while listening to podcasts. But I hope that you enjoy this episode, and we'll be back with more episodes in the fall. Take care, everyone. Welcome, everyone, to the Future is Bilingual podcast. I'm very happy to be back with Marcin, my co-host. Hi, Marcin.
Hi, everyone. Hi.
How's it going?
Things are going quite well. I'm excited to be back. It's been quite a while, but there's been a lot interesting episodes in the meantime. So,
well, thank you. But I have missed recording.
Yes.
It's not the same doing things by myself, but yeah, there've been a couple of interviews that have been really fun and good. So today we want to talk to you about immersion, and this has been on my list and our list for a while, but things have gotten a little crazy. So we're going to talk about what is immersion, why is it important, and then give you some really concrete ideas of things that you can do to create a more immersive environment, either for you yourself as a language learner or for your kids and yourself if you are a parent. And finally, we're going to wrap up the episode with a day of immersion for each of us. So I'm obviously a parent. If this is your first time tuning in, my name is Heather, and I have 2 young kids who are 2.5 and almost 4. So I will be talking about it from the perspective of a parent raising multilingual kids.
And I do not have kids, but I am learning another language currently, and I will be talking about immersion from the perspective of someone learning a language.
So first question is, what is immersion? What is language immersion? And if you look it up on the internet, you'll get lots of sites, promotional sites that are telling you to go abroad and come join our immersion program. There's even ones where you don't have to go abroad. They'll just create this immersion bubble for you. You even have to sign a contract that you're not going to speak your native language. There's all sorts of immersion tactics, but we're going to just take it back a little bit. You know, what can you do in your own home without having to go anywhere or spend any money? So for me, I always think about immersion just as being completely immersed, completely surrounded by the language, from the things that you're ingesting, things that you're reading, listening to, but even just down to the way you're thinking, the language you're thinking in, the language you're speaking in. So kind of just everything that you're doing during your day being in that language.
And for me, the key here is the engagement, as you say. You know, it's not just that you turn on the radio in your target language and it's in the background and you will magically pick it up. Like this has to be an active engagement that you are really dedicated to, and that you do all the activities that you need to do to get as much out of that immersion as you can.
That is a really good point. And I know there are people that go abroad thinking they're going to go abroad for a semester and come back fluent, and they end up going abroad, meeting a whole bunch of other Americans, speaking English most of the time and not coming back fluent. So it's kind of that same idea that if just because you're surrounded by it, just because you're living in the country, if you're not making an active effort to learn the language and practice it and use it, it's not just going to magically seep in.
Yeah.
And that I know you mentioned this later on, but that with children, we often say that children just magically soak up language, but that's really not true. Anyone that has kids has seen how much effort they put into just even listening, the way that they focus on you from like little babies, upward, and they're babbling and then they start speaking and they're doing a lot of effort. I don't think it's just this magical thing that just comes like just by being immersed in the language.
Yeah, and yeah, this has to be an engagement, and the little kids, you might think to yourself, like, look at that toddler, and they know my target language better, but it's their native language. They hear 24/7, and everyone that they engage with in that language. And are you doing the same? Like, probably not. You might be listening to the language, but are you actually speaking it?
Right.
Um, and you have some advantages that the toddler, or the little child doesn't. Like, you have possibly years of schooling experience, so you know how to engage with textbooks, and you know how to make notes and create
Yeah.
strategies and study plans that the kid doesn't. They just kind of figure it out as they go.
Right.
uh,
And even just having the concept in your mind of just different tenses, different things like that, it's much easier to just be able to switch and say, okay, this is how it's done in this
yeah.
language because you already have your native tongue. But kids, they're learning it for the first time. And yeah, I also think there's so many things we could go into a whole
Mhm.
deep dive here, but like how they're not afraid to make mistakes. They're trying all the time. Um, they're just, I feel like they're speaking a lot more than most adults when we're learning a language, myself included. And, I love learning languages, but it's very easy to just absorb, listen, watch, but not speak. So I think we're
Yeah.
going to talk about that today because that is a very important part. Getting
Yeah.
back to your point of active.
Yeah,
So
and
yeah,
I'm definitely guilty of that. So it's
yeah,
you're
it's easy to fall into that
something.
trap.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
We have to force ourselves out of it. And I'm very outgoing, but if you're more of an introvert, it's even harder. So
Yeah, then you'll be an amazing reader, perhaps, but not maybe a good speaker.
yes, I am struggling with that right now with Italian, but that's a whole nother point. Okay, so our second point is why is immersion important? And I really just think it's important because I've seen it work, I've had it work for myself. And I think there's two big main reasons why it's so important. It's because if you're immersed, you're going to increase your amount of exposure exponentially. If you're just learning a language, maybe at school or on your own, you might only engage with it for, I don't know, an hour a day, maybe even less, depending on what you're doing and how much you're doing. Uh, and if you start immersing yourself, it's going to suddenly seep into all these parts of your day where you were just using your native language. So I think getting that exposure is the first step. You can't really speak until you've heard enough of the language.
Mhm.
Um, and the second is that it creates a need. So here we're going to create it for ourselves. If you were living in the country and doing like a natural immersion of being in the country, you would have that need where you have to speak the language because people aren't going to understand your native tongue. Now, this is obviously harder for anyone whose native language is English because you can travel now and pretty much anyone can speak to you in English, unless you go out to the maybe some smaller towns. But in this case, we're going to just create that need for ourselves where I need to use this language. I need to maybe speak it. We're going to create these artificial needs, or maybe real needs. If we're going to talk about, with children, you want to create that need for them to speak it to you.
Yeah, and I think of how I speak two languages at a similar level, fluently or at a native level, if you want. And I learned both of those through immersion. I tried. Well, I had, I think, about 3 years of English lessons, and I came over knowing numbers, and that's about it. Um,
Gosh,
so so yeah, immersion was what got me to speak English within a year, and then
yeah,
fluently within a couple of years, and then at a native level after a couple more years.
yeah.
So
You could say the same for French. I was studying it from middle school, like from age 11 on, and I didn't feel like I really got fluent until I moved there at, how old was I? Like 21,
oh
however old
yeah.
I was. I feel like you do have to be immersed in it somehow to really just engage with it as much as you need to, and to have as much exposure and need to speak it and all of that good stuff. But like we said, moving to a country does not mean you're going to become fluent. So it's
Yeah.
really a choice. It's a active engagement on your part, like you were saying.
Right. Yeah, it is a choice, and it's really quite something when you do make that commitment, and and it is it's important to make sure that you have reasons to do it, because if you're just learning it on an academic level, like just through that approach, it's very hard to keep up that motivation. But once you start to, you know listen to, or read books, or listen to podcasts, or audiobooks, or
Mhm.
watching your favorite shows in the target language, all of a sudden you're having a lot more fun. And it's not, you're still picking up a lot, but it's a lot less, it feels a lot less like a chore.
Yeah,
Like
that's
when
such a
you
good
start,
point.
it's hard, yeah, but
And just kind of getting away from that textbook classroom model of learning languages, and you know bringing it into what we're already doing. If we're already on social media, start following accounts that are in that language. If you love music, start listening to more music. If you're a fan of movies, you can do so much in your target language. And I think it's finding all the resources that maybe is a challenge, because it's just you're surrounded by ones that are in your native language, so it's much easier, of all the stuff. And you're not necessarily being told. Like, I would have to go search for some TV shows in Polish, or movies, or things like it's not in my face here in the United States. Does that
yeah,
make sense?
yeah. And listening to music was a big one for me, because if you're from a non-English speaking country, you listen to a lot of music in a language you don't necessarily speak. And so to us, quote unquote, like these non-English natives, it's such a norm. And then when I've met people who only listen to music in English, that was shocking. It's like, why would you limit yourself like that?
Hmm.
Like, and especially since, I listen to music in so many languages that I don't speak. Like, it never even crossed my mind to question that, until people would ask me why I listen to music in a language I don't speak. And and it was
Yeah.
just kind of like, I couldn't answer that, because it's such an obvious thing that you do.
Hmm.
Like, it
Well, I
doesn't matter
think
if you
I
speak it.
think there are
Yeah.
two types of people: those that listen to the music and the rhythm, and those that listen to the lyrics, maybe more. So maybe some of those people, I actually listen to the lyrics more than I listen to the music. But I'm also not very musical, so I think that's why
I don't know.
you
The,
ignore the music.
the
Not ignore it. I don't
yeah,
obviously ignore it, because you can't ignore it, but
like
I pay
there's
attention to the text and what they're saying
sure,
more
but
than
like
the
the
rhythm.
music also communicates that.
Of course. Yeah, no, you
Yeah.
can't really
And
have a song without music.
the amount of instrumental music that surrounds us, like, it
Hmm.
still tells stories.
Yeah.
Um,
All right. So let's get into all the different ways that we can either immerse ourselves or our children if we're trying to pass on a language or languages to our children. So the
mhm.
first that I put is listen to music, listen to the radio, listen to CDs if you still have those. Uh, what else can we listen to? Spotify, I don't even know what else is on there, but listen to
Yeah,
something.
whatever your medium of choice is, or like the provider of choices. And all of it is, what's great about that is that you get to hear what people in the countries of your target language listen to, and you get to listen to it on repeat, so you can pick up things that you didn't pick up before. You can pick up the
Hmm.
next or following times, and you learn not important, but like you'll learn phrases that are expressions more than you might from other places, like from books, or from
Yeah,
definitely a classroom. Like, you'll
that's a
pick up
great point.
expressions left and right that you can throw into conversations, and they propel you forward very, very quickly.
Hmm. Yeah, and music, you can listen to it over and over. And I like what you're saying with radio, because I do think you get a lot of cultural knowledge when you listen to the radio. Like,
Yeah.
the ads even can be interesting, and just, yeah, the things that they say. There's certain figures of speech and things that might be used on the radio, but also even just the songs that they're going to play. That is a really good point.
Mhm. And definitely sing along to your favorite songs once you listen to them a few times, or look up the lyrics, and repeat them and learn them, and that will help you with your pronunciation. It will give you practice, and it's a fun way to practice.
Hmm. Yeah, so it's kind of taking the passive listening and making it more active. You can also play games, play video games. I know even just with my kids, there's lots of games for young kids that you can play, even if they're not in the target language. Well, my kids don't read, so I can say to them whatever I want.
Yeah.
We have a game called Zingo where it's got pictures and it's got the word written in English, like dog, cat. It's like very simple. It's for early reading skills, so it's like very basic words. But we play it in whatever language we're speaking that day because they can't actually read what the letters are saying yet.
Oh,
But
right.
that
So
gets a little harder when your kids actually can say, "No, mom, that says dog. Why are you
right.
saying chien? Why are you
Yeah,
saying pièce?"
it
Um,
doesn't say that.
but I'm sure
Um,
there's plenty of games that like don't have words; they're just picture based, and then you can play them in any language.
yeah. Um, I was in groups with people where we played Scrabble
Oh,
multilingually,
jeez. Yeah.
just because some people said like, "Hey, your English is so much better than mine," but why can't I use Polish? And it's like you speak Polish, so let's do both. It's like, okay.
Oh,
Um,
fun.
so we were doing bilingual Scrabble. So it was, you learn that way,
Mhm.
but it was definitely not like an exercise designed to teach you. It was just
No,
having fun, and you pick up things along the way.
but yeah, there's
And
many games that you can adapt, and you just
when I
imagine
was,
the accents if they're not on the Scrabble board.
oh yeah, and when I was in when I was teaching at university, when I was teaching Polish, like the students played Taboo,
Oh,
which it's such a difficult, in a way, it's a very difficult game because you're describing words.
yeah,
You're describing, what you want to say. So it it's an extra level of like it's the next level of advancement
yeah.
to be doing that.
And we were just talking before we started recording about different games. So there's like, games you can play with you have to make a word with the last letter of the word someone else said. There's all
Right.
sorts of like linguistic
Yeah.
games that you can play without any materials. You can just, if I say cat, then you would have to say a word that starts with T and then
Yeah.
kind of go around a circle. I mean, there's all sorts of, this is a very large category, play games. I don't even know video games. You could maybe speak to more if there's
Well, yeah, video games,
language.
it's a great resource because I've met people who, when we were growing up, like the RPG games, like the role playing games,
Mhm.
they're these the people that make those games, they create these big worlds where you could interact with, maybe hundreds of different people with thousands of lines of dialogue, and there's a lot
Oh, wow.
there used to be a lot more reading involved. These days, maybe a lot of it is voiced, and the lines of dialogue don't run into like hundreds of thousands. But some of the games that I grew up with were like hundreds of thousands of lines of dialogue in English. So you're sitting there, and those games
Wow.
at that point weren't translated. So I've met people, and I've done it myself, where you're sitting there with a dictionary figuring this out because you love playing this game. It's a great video game, and these days, like, so many games are translated, and if
Yeah.
you're playing digital video games, you have pretty much access to any of the language. Like, you just
Mhm.
decide which language you want to make your video game. So you play it because it's pure fun, because you really enjoy it, but you give yourself the incentive to learn more vocabulary, to learn expressions in your target language when you switch it.
Mhm.
And yeah, it's really fun. I've definitely done it, and I do it, and it's one of my favorite ways to immerse myself.
Yeah, I have not played those games, but that sounds like a really great way.
Yeah.
And I was just thinking we should have added apps onto here because I mean, there's apps for like anything now. And I know at one of the conferences, can't remember which one, but with Langfest, which is a language festival that happens in Montreal,
Hmm.
um, with Tetsu, who's pretty well known. He was
Oh
playing
yeah.
Boggle, so we would like every day there was like a Boggle tournament, but it was multilingual. So we'd do like one
Right.
in French, one in Spanish, one in Italian, one in German. Um, but you can get an app. I got an app on my phone because I really like Boggle. Just kind of finding words in a. You guys all
Yeah.
know what Boggle is, right? There's like 16 letters, and you have to see how many words you can find on the Boggle board. It's a really basic game, but I found an app for specifically in French, um,
Oh, that's really great.
French Boggle. So yeah,
Yeah.
apps too. I'm sure you can find some really great apps. And for kids, I know that's like a big topic is which app is good for my kid.
Right.
And I was listening to, what was it? It was the Raising Multilinguals. They have um, interviews with like scholars every 2 weeks. And the person that they just recently interviewed is she's done some work with apps, and how like what parents think is a great app is not necessarily what your child is going to think is a really fun app.
Right.
So she
Yeah.
gave the example of like this great app to help you practice your Chinese strokes, like the way that you write your character. And like the kids were like, no, I don't want to play
Yeah.
this.
No.
So
Yeah.
yeah, she's done research and written papers on apps and how we can use them for like heritage languages. And it was really, really fascinating.
Yeah.
But yeah,
I mean, that's a great topic, and like, yeah, the like how figuring out how the different apps and the different games engage with your brain or your child's brain, and how they have to figure them out, or 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 whether they don't engage with
right.
their brain, whether they're very passive and time wasters. So
Hmm.
yeah, it's a great but they
Yeah.
can be really great. And obviously we didn't really mention, but it almost goes without saying, like, change your like your phone language, change
Oh
your
my
computer
gosh, I
language.
forgot to put that in the notes.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, of course.
The first thing I've probably done, and one of the first things I'm sure you've done,
Yes. Oh,
like
my phone's been
changing
in French for years, and I just had to get a new phone, and I immediately
the
put it in
first
French.
thing. Yeah.
But it's because they don't offer Polish. I would have had my Android only offers like Spanish, French, English. I
What?
forget what else, but
I,
there's no
I
Polish.
am very surprised
I'm
because
offended. I'm gonna
my
write to
I
them.
have I have my phone set to German first, and then Polish second, and then English third.
Like the
And I
whole phone, you can change the whole phone.
Yeah,
Okay.
and I speak to Google Assistant in German and in Polish,
Mhm.
and it recognizes both. The way
Oh,
it's set
nice.
up, you can speak to it in either, and it figures it out. Because
It's
they used to do
bilingual.
it so that you had to pick one, and you couldn't do both. But now, for a while, maybe the last year or so, they made that update where you can your phone is listens to you bilingually.
That is
Um,
very cool. See,
yeah.
yeah, technology is really amazing. That's like a whole big category we could keep talking about.
Oh yeah.
And for parents, I've heard many parents say if your kid wants the tablet, they make the tablet in the home language, things like that. Another thing that is really great for immersion is TV, movies, YouTube videos, wherever else you're getting some films, from. They're really great just because you're getting visual plus audio all together. And there's just endless, like I just said in the multilingual
Yeah.
motivation episode, there's kind of endless topics that you can find, especially with YouTube.
Yeah,
Um,
and what's really interesting with services like Netflix, which is super popular,
mhm.
it is global, but it's also region tied. So depending on where you live, you do have access to different shows.
Yeah,
So
I've
if you
heard you can
want,
change your location to like have it
yeah,
show you shows you want to see. Like I could say I'm in Poland even if I'm not.
yeah. So there are ways to do that, right? So, but yeah, if you can do that, or obviously if you're lucky enough to be able to travel to that place, you will have completely different shows that will be in your target language, or there will be more in your
Wow.
obviously more in your target language. So it's a great resource.
Hmm. Yeah, there's an endless amount of TV that we could be watching.
Yeah,
It's kind of overwhelming to think about.
and I also think that YouTube's closed captioning, the subtitles that it
Uh-huh.
creates automatically, has improved dramatically as well. So it's really good at recognizing speech. So
Yeah,
the content creators don't necessarily have to create subtitles.
I know that's
You just have
huge.
to
That is,
turn that option on, and it will recognize what you're saying, and it might not be very accurate for if you multilingual videos, but if you're watching a video in one language and they have the captions turned on, then it should be really accurate, and that can
mhm.
really help you if you want that extra um,
Support.
support of, yeah,
Yeah.
um,
I use
extra.
it all the time just because it's late at night and I want to like watch something and the kids are
Oh yeah,
sleeping or whatever, like I don't want to have the volume
yeah.
louder at all.
Especially if it's late, you're not fully engaged. Like your brain is a little more, um, a little tired.
Yes, for
So
sure.
having that extra support is really good.
For sure.
And then possibly my favorite point is reading. Read read, read books, read blogs, read magazines, read cookbooks and social media posts, and any sort of like DIY instruction you need. Wikipedia articles, those are wonderful to read
Hmm.
in your target language, and that, as like it gives you a different sort of engagement. And so, for example, for German, you probably know this. German has 4 cases, right?
Hmm.
But people really only use 3 in speech,
Oh,
and
nice.
then they don't really use genitive in when speaking. They'll say
What?
like,
I can't even imagine. How do you not use
well,
the genitive? Okay.
what you do is you say fun, and then you use the accusative. uh,
Oh,
so it's really interesting. But then in writing, it
you have
gets
to.
so
Mm.
so you get that exposure. So depending on what language but although it works in all languages, like the informal way of speaking versus the
Right.
way of writing, you will have, you're able to engage with that and learn from that. And obviously, because it's written, you can take it at whatever pace you want, and you look up as much as or as little as you need. But it's also a great like immersion skill to see how much you can figure out from context. Like, just because you don't understand a word doesn't mean that you cannot figure out what it means more or less.
Right.
Uh,
Yeah, you don't need to know every single word.
I
That's
was really proud of myself in a way, because I was reading an article in German this week,
Mhm.
and there was a phrase in there that I thought, wow, that looks very much like prodigal son. And that's exactly, and I looked it up, and that's what it meant.
Oh, that's so
Um,
funny.
and I figured it out from context. But basically, the word is like lost son, like they say, like,
Hmm.
verloren son. So it's like lost son. Okay, that makes sense in the context. That's like
Wow.
prodigal son, because this person like left this band and then they came back.
Uh-huh.
So, so it made sense in the context. So do as much of that as you can.
Right.
Um,
Yeah, as much as, and definitely finding things that interest you and that are maybe a little bit over your level, because you can usually read higher than like you can speak, you can understand,
Definitely.
it's just easier to understand. Same with listening, anyone who's learning a language, you know what I mean? And you can
Yeah.
understand like everything someone says to you, and then you're trying to speak and you're like, you have
Right.
nothing. So
Yeah.
same goes with books. You can definitely read things, and you want to read if you're trying to get better. You do want to read a little bit over your level, because you're going to challenge yourself to keep going forward. If you only read things that you understand 100%, that you already know, you're not really getting anywhere.
Yeah. Like, it
Um,
might be a good review, or once
yeah,
in a
you
while,
could do it for fun,
to
for sure.
cement what you already know. But so,
Right.
like, I've been reading this book of fairy tales in German,
Mhm.
and it's all the fairy tales I've known since I was a kid. It's
Mhm.
like your very like Western standards. You have your Cinderella and Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. So what's great about that for me is that I can, because I know the story, it helps with the understanding.
Right. You can
So
focus on the language.
yeah, and it helps, like, I can figure out some things. Like, you know, I
It's
forget.
different than being completely lost in a new story
Oh
and
yeah,
having to
like
figure everything out.
like
Mhm.
I can't remember how to say wand now, but I did figure it out from context when
I
she.
cannot remember that in Polish ever. Like I know
Ruszka.
we, yeah, like I've heard you guys say it whenever we have like play dates with like Mia or anyway. I'm like I hear it and then I'm
Oh
like,
yeah,
oh, what is that?
yeah,
Escapes
yeah.
me usually. In French, it's so easy. It's baguette, just like the food. But it's baguette magique.
Wow,
So I'm
that
like,
is that's like so stereotypical,
that's so
isn't it?
French. I
Like,
know.
it doesn't help French stereotypes that they name their wands like magical
No, but
baguettes.
lots of things are baguettes, like chopsticks. It's just it's that shape, like anything that kind of
Yeah,
has that shape.
yeah. They're not
Okay.
helping the case.
No. So what I did want to say is, yeah, reading, there's so many levels, like you were saying, there's the most academic paper, and then there's like,
Mhm.
reading the instructions on how to make soup. Like I don't know, I still
Yeah.
like to just like make sure when I'm making a Polish soup that we get in a bag, like, okay, let me read these instructions,
Oh yeah.
make sure I'm
Yeah.
adding enough milliliters of water.
Yes.
It's short, it's like 2 sentences, but
Yeah.
it goes the whole gamut. There's so many things you can read that is going to count. And it doesn't have to be it doesn't have to be a book of 500 pages that you are
Yeah.
reading. It could be a fun magazine article or a social media post. Those all count.
And even if you are following, which it's still okay to be following social media in the language, in like your native language. If you have your phone or your computer set to your target language, it'll usually now offer to translate it.
Oh
So
gosh.
you might as well just translate it into that language and
Do you
say it.
click that button?
Um,
I've
I
I've only done it
yeah.
by accident, and then I'm like, what am I doing? No, go back to the original.
Well, so that depends like which way I'm translating. So
Sure.
like I don't want to translate from German to English because I want to look at the German and see if I can figure it out. But then I
Hmm.
might to see, what I've missed. Or for example, I was watching a video um, from the Euros. So the
Hmm.
European Championships are happening now, and there
Hmm.
was a little short clip of a Ukrainian player speaking in Ukrainian um, with German subtitles,
Oh,
and between the the spoken Ukrainian and the written German, I figured out everything that he said. Like some things I understood in one language but not the other, and vice
yeah,
versa. And
that's cool.
so that was really fun. But yeah, so you can
So if you're going
find it.
hardcore immersion, then you need to translate everything on your phone, even your friends' posts in your native language.
Yeah,
Yeah, I don't go that
I'm
far.
I'm definitely not at that level, but
Me
you
neither.
can't do it once in a while. If there's something interesting, or like if there's a word that you think to yourself, it's like, oh, I want to figure out like how to say that in my TL, in my
Then
target
you
language.
kind of have to
Then,
trust the
yeah,
technology. I just don't know if I'm at the trust level with like the translation technology.
it is true.
I
Like
think that's
it's not
my
necessary.
qualm is like
Yeah,
I still don't trust Google Translate even though it's gotten better. Um, and yeah, I think I just
but
it's
it's
probably accurate for like one word if you're just like, how
yeah,
do you say that one word?
but
Like
it's also
magic
got to
wand.
be, but it's also got to be a support and not like I'll write my essay in English and use Google Translate to submit it to my French teacher. She won't figure it out.
Yeah,
So
that's the
like
whole issue I have with Google. But
so that's the thing. It's like you're using it as a support.
yeah, I think it's okay with one word. But I still prefer to check a different, like an actual dictionary site. But that's just me. That's just my teacher
Yeah.
in me.
Use different sources. There's nothing wrong with that.
All right. Another idea is to have play dates with friends. So this is more for the parents, although it's perfectly fine to have play dates with your adult friends as well. I just wouldn't call them play dates.
Yeah.
But yeah, just using the community. There could even be, depending on the language, if there's like the library offers some sort of program. If there's just, I don't know, there's lots of, I know, at least for Spanish, there's lots of like ways to get immersed in a group and do different things. But if you know even just one other family, go up, go and meet with them and just that, having the kids speak together is awesome. Having another parent that could talk to your kids in the language is just, it's very helpful. And for
Yes.
me, being a non-native Polish speaker, having all of my Polish friends speak to my kids in Polish is great because they're all natives and I really appreciate that. So,
Hmm. Yeah. And obviously like if you can um join a group or just have a friend or two that you can speak with, um as long as they're willing, don't be a burden on them, but try to definitely use that to your full advantage.
for sure.
Yeah, and play days with like kids are amazing because they feed off of each other's knowledge and language skills,
Hmm.
um, and they will go back and forth, and but then like kind of settle on their like mix or either
Yeah,
you know
it's adorable to see. And
yeah
we've both seen, my kids and your nephew and niece.
yeah yeah
So yeah, kids can have like an amazing effect on each other. So I think that's just not to be ignored, not to be
yeah
understated.
yeah depending on where you live, if your target language is like a minority community language in your area, so even if you like visit parks, your kids might meet kids of that speak your target language, and
Yeah,
they'll kids being kids, they might be very willing to just play together and um,
exactly.
yeah
And age is not even a factor. I'm trying to think what the age difference is between my son and your nephew, but it's quite a few years, and
It
they are
is
like
pretty
best buds.
sizable. Yeah. Oh yeah,
Like,
totally.
it's not like the kids have to be of the same age to have fun together. Kids are very
Yeah.
good about playing.
Another one that I really like but don't do enough of is writing in the language, and especially grocery
Mm,
lists. I've started doing that. I kind of am doing that, but not every time and not
yeah,
enough. I
me
want to do
neither.
more of
Not
that. Yeah.
not perfect. My lists are usually like a mix
Mhm.
of the two.
I used to years ago. I tried to take notes bilingually in school, like when
Hmm.
I was still in college, or when I was an undergrad. I had this silly idea in retrospect to take notes and write down the shorter word. So
Oh, geez. Oh my gosh, your brain
and it's
must have been
like
thinking so much.
so it's not saving me any time, but the idea was that if I can write the shorter word of the two, like I'll spend less time writing and I can get through it faster when I'm taking notes. But it's like that's a really high level exercise for your brain
Yeah, seriously.
to
And that's
be.
not going to work with German, like, at all. I meant to say during the Scrabble, I've heard jokes that, like, how do Germans even play Scrabble? Like, how big
Oh
is the
yeah,
board?
right. The propensity of Germans to smash words together to create
I,
bigger words.
I appreciate how exact, and how, like, literal sometimes the translations are. I think that's really great. I don't even study German, but I've heard some,
Mhm.
seen some examples explained.
Yeah.
But yeah, I can't imagine trying
Well, they
to.
just have some great words, and you've heard this, I'm sure, but like there is what's important to the language. Well, like there'll be words for what's important to the
Mhm.
language. So like if Germany or Austria, they're countries that love their hiking, so they will have many words related to hiking in the woods and
Mhm.
the pleasure of hiking in the woods, or hiking in the mountains. So like they'll have specific words to express those emotions that you feel or that you experience that other languages might not.
Yes, if you don't know, go to the untranslatable. I don't know if it's a website or Instagram page.
There's
They're
different
kind of all over,
websites.
but just untranslatable words. Just Google
Mhm.
that, and you'll find tons of good examples of, yeah, these one word that you would have to explain in like a couple, like a sentence in English,
Yeah.
which is really fun.
Oh yeah. My favorite example of that is przepić.
Hmm.
Do you know that word?
I've heard it.
Przepić basically means to spend your paycheck or to sell something to get money to get booze from and then go
Oh,
drinking.
okay.
Przepić.
Wow,
So
that is not giving the best view
no,
of
but that's
Poland. Just kind
I
of
know
like our
that's
baguette
kind of the
magique.
thing. It's the baguette of Poland.
Yeah.
It's like yeah, you're not helping your stereotypes.
No, unfortunately not.
Mm.
And in addition to the writing of, grocery lists and just, even a text message to somebody or an email,
Mhm.
in a group chat that I'm in, someone just told me about the website that's called Journally. So it's basically just journal with a Y, Journally. And it's a community of learners, and you write in your non-native languages, and people who are natives or advanced will give you comments if there's things you can improve, basically.
That's really great. That's
So yeah, and I mean, you can also I prefer to write like a personal diary that I'm not sharing with anyone. I've done that for
yeah.
years, with French, and I just think it is such a great way to, I've looked back, and of course I made tons of errors. I started in like maybe high school, um, but you're getting your mind, your whole self just used to like using the language, and it
Mhm.
makes you think in the language, kind of forcing you to start thinking,
Yeah.
and just working on all that stuff, all the grammar, all that stuff. That it's a more slow and calm way to do it versus
Mhm.
like trying to speak with people. You can feel
Yeah.
pressure, and keeping up with conversation is hard. And to just journal by yourself it's a very nice and
Mhm.
easy way to ease into just thinking in the language, because nobody's pressuring you. You're not
Yeah.
responding to anyone. No one's even going to read it. Yeah, it was my high school teacher. She told us start a journal. I think she had us hand them in, but she was like, "I'm not even going to correct your grammar."
Mhm. Yeah.
And then I started doing it on my own. But
But the idea was that she wanted students to start doing it.
yeah, just
Like
start writing.
this is
What
a
did you do today?
Yeah.
What are you going to do tomorrow? Just real basic.
And those are incredible like topics to practice anyway. Like so I don't I only do like an hour and a half uh of German, of speaking German with other people a week.
Mhm.
So that's not really that much. So I'm really used to just talking to myself or talking with myself or having
Yeah.
conversation with myself, which is kind of silly and in one way, but on the other hand, because you're role playing with yourself, you are getting ready for these conversations. Like, it's like, where are you from? What do you like to do? You do that with yourself. Like, just think of that and answer these questions. And
I've
so
been
then
doing
when
that
you
too in
yeah,
Italian, and I feel so
oh yeah,
silly. And my
but
Italian is
then
so basic, but it's like,
yeah,
what do you want to do? What are you doing right now?
yeah, and then
Um,
you do go to the Duolingo events or to your meetups or
yeah,
whatever, and somebody says like, so where are you from? And then it's like, I know
and you're ready,
relate to that. Yeah, it's like, what do you like to do? What are your hobbies?
right?
There are things that come up, so you can really help yourself when you do practice those, when you think in the language.
hmm Yeah, and
Um,
we're not even talking specifically about kids yet because my kids are so little. But I mean, writing and getting your kids to write, I'm just not even there yet. I'm trying to think. I see all
yeah,
my friends with older kids who are raising kids multilingually, posting stuff, and I just feel bad that I'm not even speaking to it. But it's like my kids don't are learning their alphabet, so like we're just not there. But there are plenty of things you can do. I just posted something last night by what was her? I think it's like multilingual Montessori, and it was just
oh
like ways to engage in writing over the summer holiday. When kids are out of school.
yeah,
And so one of her ideas to engage with writing stuck with me. It was like, if you're going on vacation, write, have your either you write or have your child write postcards and send them home so that when you get home they have
oh,
mail,
that's great.
and
Yeah,
then they can like reread their memories, like, oh my gosh, remember when we were in this place.
yeah,
And there's just, I mean, that was like so creative. I was like, wow, I would never have thought to even
mhm,
do that. But there are so many ways that you can get. I feel like I'm forgetting to focus on the kids because when we talk about our ideal day, like I'm still kind of managing the ship. I'm still
mhm.
controlling what my kids do at like every hour of the day.
Yeah,
And it's so different when your kids get older and then, they're like able to do things by themselves and have their own friends and go places. So I
right.
can't even speak to that yet because my kids are so little. So I do apologize, parents with older kids, if I'm not
Mhm.
speaking directly to that situation because I just don't even know. I am oblivious and ignorant to what
Yeah,
it will be like to have older kids.
still ahead of
I'll
you.
try and keep it in my mind. So
Yeah.
yeah, have your kids write if you can.
Mhm.
Help your kid to write, all that good stuff. Like a grocery list, that's a perfect like starting point. Kids usually know all the foods,
Yeah.
what they want. You can say, what do you want? Write it down on the list
Write
if
it
you want
down.
it. If you write it down in the minority language, I'll buy it.
Right.
Oh, apropos with minority language stuff. So like obviously my kids know how to say, ice cream in Polish, which
Mhm.
is lode, but my
Yeah.
mom taught them in Hebrew just for fun.
Oh, nice.
So she was like, oh, do you guys want glida? And then she gave them glida, which is ice cream.
Mhm.
And then the next time they saw her, they're like, Bop, we want glida. Like they like
Aw.
remember this word. And I'm like,
Yeah.
yes, this is the power of like,
Yeah.
you know,
It's
real
a
concrete learning.
that word is very important to their life.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And like, oh, if we
Yeah.
say glida to our grandma, will she give it to us?
Well, she did. Yeah. Well,
We're
we
like,
get.
oh yeah, if you write it down, I will buy it at the store. Whatever
Yeah.
tactic you feel comfortable using.
Right.
But
Um,
just
but
beware, your shopping list will have candy and ice cream all over it.
lots of candy and chips and yeah, snacks. But once you do your grocery list, you also cook in your target language
Exactly.
and find recipes, and that has twofold advantage of getting you to engage more with the language, and it's very specific vocabulary, but also uh, depending on the language you're learning, you might want to experience the cuisine of the place.
Yeah.
So
I
it
mean,
can
who
be
doesn't
as
like food, right?
yeah, and I mean it's maybe not as like if I were learning Spanish, that'd be awesome. But with German food, like what am I gonna how many like asparagus soups am I gonna make? Because I'm
You're
not
not giving German cuisine enough credit. Come on.
what I'm not doing is eating meat, and
Right.
that's
Yeah.
limited by it's kind of like Polish cuisine. There's a lot of great vegetarian like things that people don't think of as Polish cuisine, and it's similar with German.
Yeah. You could
Um,
definitely alter some food.
yeah,
So yeah,
yeah,
March and I are both vegetarian. So kind
but
of at a
yeah,
loss.
but there are some really great like German recipes or like German meals that I could make that I've looked up recipes for that I intend to make. Um, so yeah, it's a really fun way to immerse yourself.
Yeah, and this is even more important if it's a heritage language, if it's, a language
Oh
that you're passing down because that's part of your family's traditions and things like
yeah.
that. If you have a recipe from maybe your grandmother wrote
Yeah,
in the native language, whatever it is, it's just great it's a great way to learn a lot of different words as well, like stir, sift. I don't know. There's very
yeah,
specific vocab when you're
yeah.
cooking as well.
Chop, slice,
Hmm.
dice. I never thought I would learn
Slice,
all these
dicey.
different
Yep.
words for that in German. Yeah.
Garnish. I don't even know. I
Garnish.
don't know how to say that word in any other language. But yeah, like I'm saying, there's
Yeah.
very specific terms.
Yes.
Okay, so cooking, yes, could be very fun. And with your kids love to be in the kitchen. They will, often want to try dishes more if they've had a hand in cooking it, or,
Mhm.
mine are so hungry during dinner prep, they'll start eating the
Oh yeah,
ingredients before we can even put them in the recipe or into the
definitely.
dish.
So yeah,
Yeah,
can
but
be really
cooking is fun. Everybody loves cooking and everybody loves eating. So
yes.
since you have to cook and eat every day, why not do it in your target language?
Yeah, and that's kind of like when I was in music school. I remember somebody said that you don't need to practice every day. Just practice the days you eat. It's like, all
There we
right,
go.
fine, not that
Oh,
funny. But yeah, kind of like you eat every day. You might as well incorporate that into your day.
might as well study.
Yeah.
And one that, well, March and I are both fans of now, we were just talking about it before we started
Mhm.
recording, is attending like a meetup or a class. And we were talking specifically about the Duolingo events that we've both been attending and just
Yeah.
comparing because we're doing different languages. And I think there's just so many opportunities. I'm really impressed by how many people volunteer their time. This is not a paid gig for people who are doing Duolingo events. They just genuinely like to meet people and help people. And a lot of them aren't natives. We were talking about that, which is
Mhm.
fine. I'm a
Yeah.
non-native French teacher, and I don't think there's anything wrong with that.
Right.
And it's just interesting, and you can really find some great meetups to join. And there's other ways to find meetups, but I think that's a
Yeah.
really easy one. A lot of people are on Duolingo.
Yeah, and it's non like locale specific. You
Exactly.
don't have to worry about are the people in my area that speak this language. You'll
Yeah.
just meet people from all around the world who are
And you don't
studying
have to
the same
leave the
language.
comfort
Yeah.
of your house. And you can
Yes.
always try it and leave if you don't like it. It's just a Zoom call. You just exit
Yeah.
quietly and nobody's none the wiser. So
Yeah, and none of the ones I've been to, and I can't imagine that ever really happens. But all the ones I've been to have been very friendly, and all the people there are very understanding, and
yeah.
people have different levels and comfort levels and comfort zones. So not everyone turns on their camera, not everyone even has their mic turned on. They might only say hello and introduce themselves, but then just listen. So there are different levels of engagement.
Yeah. I did have one person who was just like not we were in a group before in a breakout room
Hmm.
and she wasn't really saying anything. It was an Italian one. But
Yeah.
every time I spoke, she would just like correct like these little words. And I was like,
Oh,
okay,
whoa.
why don't
Okay.
you
Well,
speak up then? Like there's only
yeah.
four of us. Why don't you start talking? I don't know. It was just a little, you can't take it
Mm,
personally though. And I was just like, okay, like
true.
grazie, like thank you for, helping me.
Yeah.
Um, some like
Yeah.
close pronunciations between like Spanish and Italian if I pronounce it like a little bit wrong.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Whatever. I'm a beginner. So you just have to have that beginner
Yeah.
mindset, like, okay, I don't know what I'm saying. Thank you for
Mhm.
helping me.
Yeah.
But that's the only time I've done a lot of events, and that was the only time. It was just the way she delivered her comment.
Mhm.
It just was very harsh. But that's a whole
Oh.
nother. That was the only time. So it's not common.
There's An exception, maybe.
Yeah, and then
Yeah.
most of these breakout rooms are not for the hour, they're for like 15 minutes. So then
Yes.
you get a new set of people and everybody else has been lovely.
And that's been my experience, is that people have been very, very nice. And sometimes there are some people in the beginner classes that I feel like, why are you here? Like, you're
Yes.
definitely a more advanced speaker, which can be really great because they could be really helpful, but sometimes people will overwhelm you or they will really overtake the discussion.
Hmm.
But yeah, but
Yeah.
it's not.
You have to be aware of that. Be
Yeah.
aware of the amount of time you're speaking,
Mhm.
whether you're speaking a lot or a little. I think it's just courteous if you're in a group to just be wary because there are
Yeah.
people that just tend to dominate. I'm one of those people and I have to hold myself back.
Mhm.
Unless it's a language I don't speak well, then I don't tend
Right.
to dominate. Um,
You
but yeah,
try, but the vocabulary isn't there yet.
yeah. And then I speak
Mhm.
Spanish. What is
Right.
the Spañolo, whatever they call
Espanol.
the
Okay.
mix of Spanish Italian?
And then perhaps most importantly, create a routine and a schedule that you can stick to. So you want to make it a goal that is attainable. You don't want to just say like, I will read, War and Peace in Russian this month. That will challenge you, but it will not be overwhelming, and that you can do. So
Yeah, and you can always add more. It's hard if you start off too enthusiastic and then you,
mhm,
you don't live up to your ideal goal and then you get
yeah,
discouraged. I think it's better to start small,
and
get that win, and then add more.
yeah, and it's really important for building routines that you don't overwhelm yourself at first. So
Right.
like your journey to immersion, like to immersive environment might take, like, it might not start the next day. It might take like weeks or months, um, but you want that clear goal in mind, and you work with that schedule. It
Mhm.
doesn't necessarily have to be day one you take a vow not to speak your native language. It doesn't have to be quite so radical.
Mhm. And I mean, there are definitely people that do these immersion weekends where they're going to, spend the whole weekend immersed in a target language, and that's great.
Oh yeah,
Especially if you're working Monday to Friday and you can
yeah,
dedicate the weekend. But I do think if you're able to, just creating a routine where you're immersed for even an hour every day, kind of
yeah,
having that constant contact with the language, constant, what do I want to say? Just constantly having that in your life where it's not even a question anymore. Like
yeah,
at this hour every day, I read this book in this language or I listen to this podcast
yeah,
or whatever it is, whatever the routine is. If it's driving to work, you listen to a podcast in a certain language, or taking a
mhm,
walk after dinner, talking with a friend, whatever it is.
yeah,
Just having that kind of set thing, it just takes the guesswork out of it. You know that you're going to get practice every single day. So before we move on to our personal immersion days that we've imagined, I just want to say a little bit about just differences if you are raising kids, if you're an advanced, like a native speaker, or even an upper intermediate versus being a low or a novice. So in terms of speaking, if you're advanced, if you're native, you should definitely just speak to your child as much as you possibly can, because you are your child's best resource. That was what my guest, Lyra, in the episode Mama is a Linguist,
mhm,
she said that really her son, who I think is under 2, like he is really just watching her. It doesn't matter what else they're doing. Like he's looking to her,
yeah,
looking for her reaction. So I think if you are at that level where you can speak the entire day, even if you're not doing that now, that could be a great goal to work up to, where you're just going to speak and just immerse your child because you are the best resource. Versus if you're a novice or a low, like a beginner, then speak as much as you feel comfortable. So if there's certain topics, if there's certain vocabulary, certain phrases that you feel comfortable saying, even if it's just you're just going to start with like Laila Tov, which is good night in Hebrew. Even if it's just
mhm,
this one phrase, you can always build off of that, um, and say which is like bon appetit. Just every day you kind of, every week or whenever you add a new phrase.
mhm,
Those are the ones my mom would always say in our house. That's why they're
yeah.
in my head.
And
Um,
what's really funny about that is that you're translating from Hebrew to French, so the English speaker could understand.
yes.
The,
Well, what do we
the
say?
bon
Enjoy your
appetit.
meal. That always
Yeah.
sounds. I never use that. So
Yeah.
those are my just two tips for and learn and get better with your child. So the more you learn, you can just keep incorporating that. So if you listen to a song together and then you learn it, you can sing it with them, you can kind of keep incorporating more and more. Parents that want to raise their kids, I think you can still speak to your child as much as you feel comfortable. And just, if you're a novice or a beginner speaker that's raising a child in that language, I think you personally have to have the goal of wanting to improve.
Yeah, and when you're learning a language, some of it is similar. If you're an advanced and intermediate speaker, like you do want to make sure that you have contacts with, friends. Friends would be best because you're most comfortable with them. But
Mhm.
exchange groups and classes, you just want to speak out loud as much as you can, and you think in the language as much as you can. And when you're an advanced speaker, it doesn't take as much of a mental toll on you, to do a lot of it. So it's kind of like, it builds on itself.
Mhm.
So so that can be really great. And if you're a novice, you start speaking when you start feeling comfortable. So when you're by yourself, you start saying and repeating phrases, and um, you do introductory phrases. You learn how to say hello and how are you, and then you can start recording yourself, and you can compare that. Or if you have, say, if there is a store nearby where you live, where the person who works there speaks your target language, like even if you say hello to them, if you feel comfortable, you say hello and how are you to them in your target language, in their native language. That's already getting you on the path
Mhm.
of that immersion, and getting yourself started and getting comfortable. And that comfort is very important. It's hard to become comfortable speaking another language, from like a psychological standpoint, but also
Yeah.
from a physical standpoint. Like your tongue has to get used to these new ways. It has to move, and your mouth is making shapes that it's not used to making. So it's really important that you do that practice out loud.
Yeah. Yeah, I totally agree. Even if it's just by yourself, you do need to kind of start saying the thing. It's a whole nother thing to read and to listen, but to actually
Yeah.
speak is, I think, a huge hurdle. And I think you're so right. It can be a mental hurdle. So
Mhm.
I really like what you said. Just go out and say it to someone. If you know someone, like if you have a Korean grocer and you're learning Korean, just go in and say "안녕하세요." Like just get over
Mhm.
your fear. Like I feel like
Yeah.
you'll just once you break down that first barrier, it will seem easier. Like, okay, I
Mhm.
did it. It wasn't scary.
Yeah.
They were so excited that I said it, and they were very nice to me.
I still remember the first like store clerk that I said something to in English. Like I have that memory of that interaction
That's so
because
funny.
it's that powerful. Yeah.
Yeah. No, it's so true.
Breaking that barrier, that idea of like, whoa, I said something and they understood me and they responded like
Yeah,
it's normal, because it is, but it's just something you're not used to yet.
you're so right. And whenever we go to the Polish store, my husband usually just does the interaction, and I walk down the aisles and pick what I want. And
Yeah.
maybe a couple months ago, I went by myself and I was like, oh, I have to do all the interaction and ask for
Yeah.
the cheese. I kept
Yeah.
asking him before I went. I'm like, how do I say like a half pound of this? I just wanted to make sure I said it right.
Yeah. Yeah,
Um,
you want it to be comfortable, even though like
I've
you speak
been there
Polish
so
at an
many
advanced
times. My
level, and you've
Polish
been
is
there, and
good, but I
you
don't
speak Polish
usually
every
have to
day,
ask.
and yeah.
Right. I don't usually have to ask for like a half pound of cheese. Um, and I meant to say like chutego like of the yellow cheese, like
Yeah.
Emmental or something, but I said białego sera. And then she was
Oh.
pulling out all the tfarug, and I was like, oh no, sorry,
Oh,
that's not what I
like
meant.
like like your farmers cheeses and
I
all
was
that.
like, oh,
Yeah.
whoops. And like, yeah, like I made a mistake, but like, it's fine. Like
Yeah.
we were conversing for like 10 minutes and because I was the only customer in the little store.
Oh
Um,
yeah.
but yeah, getting
Yeah.
over that hurdle, I was like, oh my God, I have to do this by myself now.
Yeah. And I've been living in the US for so long, like that's how I order too. But then when I went to Poland for the first time in like 12 years, this was like 8, 9 years ago. And I was in a store with my cousin, and she was like, I'll have 20 decagrams of cheese. And I was like, wait, what?
Oh
Uh,
yeah. Geez, we don't even use that. Yeah.
no, no, like Poland is like the only place that uses decagrams as a regular, like everyday interaction. Like
Yeah.
other countries will use, grams and kilograms, but Poland's like, no, deca. It's like 20 deca. It's like,
Oh my
oh,
gosh.
yeah. But
Whole
that's about a
nother
half pound, so it's the same.
half ounce. Oh, jeez.
Yeah.
Okay, the other thing I wanted to just point out, because it can be challenging, is reading. So if you're raising kids like me and you are able to read, then you should read to your child, obviously, as much as you can, as much as you feel comfortable in the target language. Now, this may mean that you have a lot of books and you're just reading. That's usually the easiest for me.
Mhm.
And if you're comfortable translating on the fly, that's really great too, because you're not going to have all of your books probably in that one language, especially if you're a bilingual or multilingual family.
Yeah.
But if you do feel comfortable, even if you're not translating, perfectly, you're not translating word for word, if you're able to kind of feel comfortable to tell them the story in the other language, I think that's really a great tool. And even if you change it, I change it up completely sometimes. Like we just talk about random things that are on the page. It doesn't matter. It's the point is that you're giving them input in the language. Um, versus, the novice level parent that wants to teach a child a language that they're not yet fluent in. I would say get as many books as you can in the target language, even if you're just getting them from the library, and practice reading them. Even your child's not going to judge you. That is for sure. Your
Oh,
children
yeah.
love you. They don't know you're making mistakes. It's not a class. They're not your teacher. Um, so read as much as you can, get as many books as you can, because you are going to learn so much from that. Your child's going to be absorbing it as well. So it's just a really great bonding experience. And I wanted to put a little shout out to my friend Sarah, who's on Instagram. She is at Chatter Than Nothing, and she is learning her husband's native Indonesian. She's from Australia,
Hmm.
and they're raising their daughter in Indonesian and English, but she's kind of learning it along with her. She has
Yeah.
this like very adorable little baby who's under 1,
Oh.
and she has created her own resources because she's having trouble finding a lot of resources in his
Mhm.
native language, even though it's not that far from them. But
Yeah.
she is so creative, and she'll create her own resources. She did all this work, like she was using Google Translate, and then she gave her husband this like document that he marked up, and then she retyped it and
Oh, yeah.
put pages. She would print them out, cut them up. So she made her own bilingual books where she wasn't
I mean, that's
covering the English;
inspiring.
she was just putting the I hope I'm saying it's the right language, Indonesian,
Mhm.
um, on the page as well. And then she would, read it to her. She's done all these great things with like the days of the week. And she's just such an inspiration because she's not yet fluent in this language, but she's raising her daughter in it, which is so, so amazing.
Yeah.
So shout out to her. That's amazing.
That's really
She's,
amazing.
yeah,
Yeah.
such an influence.
Yeah. And I'd say when you're learning a language, if you're an advanced or an intermediate speaker, definitely read more books in that language. At that level, you the like, books will offer you a much wider vocabulary than um, movies will, like everyday conversations will. So like if you want to make that next step, um, then that's the best way. That's one of the best ways to expand your vocabulary. And when you're, if you're a novice, you're a beginner, start with simple books, start with easy books. That are at your level or slightly above, like we mentioned,
Mhm.
because if it's just slightly above your level, you will still pick up many things from context, and then you'll be able to look up words that you need that are specific to understanding, or to that'll help you expand your vocabulary. And you don't want to, if you're a beginner, you don't want to start reading. Um, I'll use War and Peace again. Although I'm
Yeah,
told War and
Shakespeare.
Peace is not like, yeah, oh yeah, if you're learning English and you're even an intermediate speaker, Shakespeare is, you'll be looking up words left and right, and also
Yeah,
it might not even work
it's
very
not going
well.
to help you.
Yeah. So definitely read something at around your level, and if you enjoy it, if you're comfortable with it, like definitely read children's books.
Mhm.
Um, and same goes with TV and shows and YouTube channels.
Yeah, totally.
If you don't get bored by Peppa Pig in the first 10 minutes, like it's a toddler level language. So if you're a total beginner, like just beginning, then that would be the level you're shooting for. But it might not be, so you might watch some of it and you might get bored of it really quickly, but it will help. But yeah, but with
This is why it's great to have kids, because you can watch
Yeah.
the TV with them and you're like, oh, I'm not just watching Bing on my own, I'm watching it with my kids.
and you're reading with them. And I was reading Cinderella in German this week, like I mentioned, and
Mhm.
and my nephew wanted me to read to him, and like I'm reading this in German and I'm trying to understand. So I was translating it on the fly.
Wow,
Uh,
that's
I'm
good practice too.
I'm used to translating between Polish and English. That's no issue for me.
Right.
Just on the fly, whatever one language to the other. Um, but yeah, that was the first time I had to do it from German to English, which I could do. If I had to do it from English to German, that would be a lot more difficult.
Yeah, for sure. No, it's always easier going into a
Yeah.
language, either your native language or a language you're fluent in. But yeah,
Yeah.
don't judge yourself if you're, reading slowly, if you're looking up words. That is so, so normal. And
Oh, yeah.
that's normal even at the advanced level. I'm just going to put that out there. I have to look up words sometimes in all my languages. So
Yeah. So since I've started a much more intense immersion, which has only been a few weeks now, maybe 4 weeks or so, there have been some things I've definitely noticed. So I've been studying German on and off for, well, years really, but I never really left that beginner level. So I decided to immerse myself. And what I've noticed is that one of the first things I noticed was that I don't get language fatigue so fast anymore. So at first I would listen to German for 10 minutes and I was done. I could not concentrate any longer. My head was completely tired. It was ready to explode. It was too overwhelming.
Mhm.
And so at first I was listening to like maybe 10 minutes at a time at most during the day. Um, but now I'm able to listen to a lot more without getting tired, and my comprehension exploded. So I've studied enough that I know a lot of words. Like I know a lot of words passively. Like I've learned them, so they're
Mhm.
somewhere in my head. But to actually start hearing them and to be able to pick them up in spoken, like in spoken German, um, and at first I would understand even if I'm listening to a beginner podcast, it would be like I'd understand one or two words here and there, and then I started understanding sentences at a time, and then I was able to follow the conversation. So that really exploded quite quickly, um, and that helped not just the overall comprehension, but or that overall comprehension then helped to pick up things from context. So even if I don't quite understand everything that's said, like once you reach that certain threshold, you start to understand all of it, even if you don't know everything that's being said.
Yeah.
One of the more fun things is that I'm absolutely a master of directions in German now. I've been using Google Maps in German, so I know I can, lead an expedition now. I know my lefts from rights, and
That's fun.
like how far to travel, and then go straight, and
Mhm.
so and then turn left after like 1,000 feet, or so that's really great too.
Do they pronounce things like well? I don't know. I feel like it just annoys me sometimes with the French. I just
Yeah.
turned off the sound.
No,
Like all the names, like
like
I
the
don't know.
English names of
Yeah,
street because I'm
it's
still
just
living in the US. No, it's really fine, and if anything, I do enjoy it.
oh,
With a German accent.
we were talking about how technology has gotten so much better. So
Yeah.
my phone is always in French because that's the
Mhm.
option. I don't have Polish option.
Yeah.
But my car, so if I plug my phone into my car, it's in French.
Mhm.
But it like if I get a text message from a friend, and it'll like read it, and you know how your
Oh yeah.
car can like read out so you don't have to look at your phone, that new
Yeah.
technology.
Yeah.
It'll read out, this person said, but like the whole thing that
Oh
they
right.
say is like in a French accent. They're like, Jenny said, and like, or Jenny a
Wow.
dit. Actually, they say it in French, Jenny a dit, and then they read the message. But
Oh yeah.
I'm in these groups, these like Telegram language groups,
Mhm.
and I was getting a bunch of messages for one of the groups. So I was like, okay, let's just see what happens, because it was from the Italian group, and I was like, oh, let me hear Italian read by a French person.
Oh okay. Yeah.
But it switched over to Italian,
Oh,
and it
just
like it read it really
eventually.
like perfect Italian. I was like, oh,
Okay.
cool. So
Yeah.
like I was in my car and it was like reading this long Italian message, and I was like, oh
Yeah.
my God, that's amazing that my car just like, yeah, I don't know
I don't know
how that
either.
technology works, but I
There's
was like shocked that it read
yeah,
it in Italian.
yeah, some software update happened
Yes,
in
it's
the
cool.
background when you weren't looking.
Probably.
Oh, that's really great. Yeah.
Mhm,
So that helps you. It gives you another tool
totally.
in your arsenal. Yeah.
Yeah,
And
so that was fun.
and
Discovery.
oh yeah. And the one thing I'd want to add is that even though like it's been, you know, pretty incredible so far, like there will be plateaus and there always are.
Yeah.
So it's really important not to get discouraged and to keep working hard because those are normal, and everybody experiences them and goes through them. Um,
Yep.
and then
So
and
true.
then when you feel like you're never getting better again, all of a sudden you're gonna explode again, and you'll get, you know, you'll jump to that next plateau very
Mhm.
quickly. Um, so it's really important that you're aware of that and you're prepared for it.
Yeah, and I feel like it's hard for us to judge our own improvement just because
That is true.
we're with ourselves all the time. Like we don't notice how much we've
All the
improved.
gradual, yeah.
Like, yeah, exactly. It's such a gradual process. It's not like
Yeah.
you listen to 6 podcast episodes and you wake up the next day speaking perfectly.
And yeah, it's kind of like you don't notice your kids growing
Same.
until
Yeah.
you look at a picture of them from, 4 months ago, and you're like, oh my goodness.
Look how much you've grown. Yeah, but that's why I was going to say it's so important. Somebody else mentioned this and I'm just stealing it, that like you record yourself speaking
Oh,
so that,
okay.
in a month, like even
yeah.
if you just recorded yourself and you didn't share it, you just kept it on your phone.
Yeah.
Maybe like at the end of each month or the beginning of each month, you just kind of record something. You'll see so much progress when you go back and look at, those videos. However, or even if you just do it once every 6 months, you'll see
Yeah.
this huge
Jump. Yeah.
this huge jump in your level and your confidence and your fluency. So yeah, I think
That's a really great point, and
it's
a really
just,
great tip for.
I mean, that is if you keep
Yeah.
working. If you drop the language completely, you might not see any progress.
You will see regression.
Yeah, that also is possible.
Yeah.
Okay, before we move on, here's a rapid fire recap of all the different things you can do. Number 1, speak in the language, whether you're speaking to a child, speaking just out loud to yourself, recording yourself, just thinking in the language, you have to start actually speaking it. Listen to lots of music, the radio, any resource you can get. 3, sing along to your favorite songs, maybe learn the lyrics by heart, but again, you're going to work on your pronunciation when you're singing out loud. 4, play games, play video games, change the language of your phone or all your technology, get some apps, kind of all that technological stuff. 5, watch TV, watch movies, watch YouTube videos, watch whatever sort of entertainment that you can get where it's audio and visual together. 6, read books, blogs, magazines, articles, social media posts, recipes, whatever it is that you're interested in. Do lots and lots of reading in the language. 7, play dates with friends or just hang out with your friends that speak that language. 8, write a grocery list in the language, write maybe a diary post, a letter to somebody, maybe even write your own website, write your own social media post, something. Just get yourself writing in the language. 9, cook with the recipe, maybe a recipe that you found, maybe a recipe that your grandmother wrote, whatever it is. But cooking is a great way to read and then put it into action, and then you'll have some delicious food afterwards. You can also, number 10, attend a class or a speaking meetup or a free Duolingo event. There are lots of ways to be social with other people using your target language, even without leaving your own home now, because we have Zoom and all sorts of good technology where we don't have to actually go anywhere. And it's very low stakes. You can just leave if you don't want to be there. And 11, create a schedule or a routine that you can stick to, because all of these tips are great, but if you burn out or if you're doing things that you don't really want to do, you just think you have to do, then you're not going to stick to it. So, for example, if I think I have to be doing drills on Polish cases, I'm not going to stick to it because I just don't like to do that all day. I'd rather read or watch TV or watch a movie. So those are the 11 tips that you should be doing.
Okay, now we're going to wrap up this episode. Hopefully it hasn't been too long. We're going to wrap it up with a quick day in the life of Marcin and I. So I will be talking as a mom with 2 kids, immersing myself in Polish as my non-native language that I speak with my kids. So quick rapid fire. In the morning, I will get up, and this is idealized, by the way. Although I shouldn't say it. Some things do happen, but I'm going to give you all the immersion that is possible. Get up and start thinking to myself in Polish. Usually my kids wake me, so I'm probably going to start speaking out loud in Polish because that's real life.
Yeah.
And of course, talk to my kids, my husband. So this all happens. Put on some music or radio in Polish. I usually put on NPR. Need to get back to my Polish radio. While we're making breakfast, read something. So sometimes I have a magazine. I don't usually like to be on my phone when I get up, but you could read something, a website or whatever. Definitely read some books to my kids, maybe after breakfast. We can kind of sit down. So even if I'm translating, like I mentioned earlier, just, either a book in Polish or a translation. Playing some games with my kids, obviously playing in Polish, and then going outside, talking about what we're doing, what we're seeing around us, just kind of giving them a full Polish morning. In the afternoon, they take naps. So before they go down, I would sing them. I usually sing more to my daughter. My son just kind of reads himself to sleep, but sing her a lullaby in Polish. Then I myself would have my personal time. So I would either read, maybe watch some YouTube videos or write something. This is my idealized, that never happens. Look up a recipe in Polish and make it for dinner. That never happens. So in my ideal world, I would make my husband some great Polish dish. Sorry, honey, that's never going to happen. Then obviously when my husband gets home, we would all sit down, have dinner, talk. Then, maybe attend a Duolingo event or some other speaking meeting. Again, that never happens because all the Duolingo events for Polish are held by Polish people living in Poland, and they're all sleeping during my evening.
Yeah.
But hey, maybe someone in Chicago will start one.
Hopefully.
If you're listening from Chicago, please start one.
Please start one. So,
and then I would read or watch another YouTube video, or just, those are like pretty much the ways that I could get some more Polish into my day. And actually a lot of those are things that I do. I guess I just need to start making more Polish dinners.
Yeah. Just Polish dinner every day, not just for Easter and Christmas.
Not just on Sunday. No.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Just making rosu on Sunday, every Sunday. So the way I prepped my notes is that I wrote down what I do, and then I wrote down what I would love to add or what would be more ideal. So when right after I wake up, and I usually wake up long before, these days for whatever reason I started waking up long before my alarm clock, so I have a lot extra time in the morning. So I'm on my phone right away, as in opposition to what you're doing. Like I'm on my phone right away.
Well, I've got little eyes watching me, and I don't want them to just see me.
You don't want that.
Staring at my phone. Yeah.
So, and because my phone is in German, and the Google Discovery just throws articles that it thinks you'll be interested in, and I usually read, 1, 2, maybe 3 of them, and then I've noticed that when I first started, every sentence I was looking up words, and now, I look up less words, and I'm able to understand a lot more, which is really great. So I can maybe read one more article now than I did at first. But yeah, that's before I get out of bed. But then as I do my morning routine, I try to think in German, but that's also a more ideal thing, like add more of that. But on my way to work, on my commute, it takes me about 30 minutes to commute to work. So that's a fair amount of time. So I usually spend it about maybe half and half, or like 1/3 to 2/3 listening to German podcasts and listening to music in German. So I've been doing that every, like, 5 days a week now.
That's great.
Like definitely every morning, I listen to podcasts, and I'm finding more and more podcasts in German, like more things that are interesting to me. Not just language learning, although most of what I listen to is still language learning. And yeah, so that's been really great. And then I found a band recently that I really got into. So they have a few albums, so I can, you know, there's a fair amount there that I listen to, and the way like they sing, even though it's still like heavy, relatively heavy, like hard rock or heavy,
Hmm.
metal. The singing is very clear. Um, Even though the singer has a very raspy voice, like it's very clear and relatively easy to understand.
Hmm.
Um, so then I'm at work. I'd work on, unfortunately I don't work in German.
Yeah.
But during lunch, I usually now bring a German book with me, mostly kids books still, but as I said, I do enjoy them, and they do provide a great opportunity for
Hmm.
learning vocabulary, and it's slightly above my level. And then on the way home, it's more of the same, more podcasts, more music, maybe more music than podcasts on the way home because it's a long day and I'm
Yeah.
more tired.
So
But
I have to stop you. You have to
yeah,
bring a book to the library. They don't have books in German at your
well,
library.
so all the books that I have are from the library.
Okay.
I own maybe like one or two or three books in German that
Hmm.
are not libraries books, but yeah, all the books I have, but I take them home because I read them at home. So then
You're okay. You're in the process of
then I
reading.
bring them back to work. But yeah, but if I don't, I do have books at the library that I
You
can
could probably just
that I
go
can
grab one off the
yeah,
shelf.
I can. I can. We do have we I'm lucky enough that we have not a big section, but we do have a German section. So
Hmm.
there are, more books than I've read. So it works for me.
For now.
Yeah. Once I make, yeah, well,
Once you
yeah,
read all of them,
then
you'll be doing the interlibrary loan.
yes, and it'll be great.
Mhm.
It'll be awesome if I get to that level. But anyway, sometimes I'll do Duolingo like during my lunch break at work. Like during my lunch break at work, not while I'm working.
Mhm.
But then I might do it in the evening. And I've been doing a little more of it than I used to do as well. And then in the evening, I'll watch either Netflix or increasingly Twitch in German. And what's really interesting about that is that Netflix is TV shows and movies, so it's just made for that. But Twitch is people just streaming themselves, um, you know, playing games or making music or just chatting.
Mhm.
Literally, just chatting is like probably the most popular like thing on Twitch these days.
Mm.
Um, so I can listen to natives speak a natural language as opposed to podcasts, which especially for learners, they'll be made with that in mind to speak more slowly,
Right.
um, to to you know to make it more understandable for uh, language learners. But yeah,
Mhm.
with Twitch, I don't understand most of what's going on. Well, I understand what's going on, but what they say, like I might not understand a lot of what they say, especially if
Yeah.
somebody's speaking in their natural, fast speaking rhythm. Um,
Mm.
and then I do like really just one Duolingo event a week, and it's an hour and a half long, which is great that it's an hour and a half and not like 30 minutes. But ideally, I'd like to do more of that, and especially in person. If I, had German friends that I could talk to, or go to meetings more often with people
Yeah.
in real life, not just Zoom, that'd be great. And if I didn't just talk to myself all the time. And then I do have one exercise book for third grade German, um,
Oh.
which I've done about half of it, but I don't do it regularly. So I'd like to do more of that, and maybe even do a more disciplined and methodical approach where I do tackle specific issues that I do have. Like at this point, I'm at a level where I do want to look into grammar more because
Mhm.
I'm not someone who looks at grammar right away. Like I
Yeah.
don't think
It's not
it helps
helpful.
me do it right away. Yeah.
Yeah.
But now I'm at a level where it is, so I could, that would like having a more methodical approach would help more with that, and even getting a private tutor, like that would be
Mhm.
really ideal as a teacher. But then obviously do more, just know more people that I could practice the language with.
Yeah.
And
It's funny you brought up the textbook because today,
oh,
our friend Marissa, multilingual Marissa, on Instagram posted a meme that she created that was like,
mhm,
"Oh, you speak all these languages!" Like your friends are all impressed, and you're like,
yeah,
"Here's me, like with like the duvet over your head, the cover over your
Oh,
head.
yeah.
Like I've never finished a textbook in my life.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, that's so true. We have like, how many
Yep.
of us have half finished,
yeah.
never started textbooks on our bookcases?
Oh yeah, definitely. But I do some like grocery lists in German, but yeah, I'd like to do it more regularly, and then as we've mentioned during the episode, like do more cooking. But one last thing that I would love to be able to do, especially if I lived like in Boston again, or places that are more tourist friendly, is to have couch surfers again. Because when I lived in Boston, I did host a couple couch surfers. They're actually both Polish, but it was a really great experience. And when I've traveled, I've couch surfed for a bit, and I really enjoy that experience. So I ideally, if I were able to have couch surfers, and more ideally from German speaking countries, but obviously any, just having couch surfers over would be great, no matter where they come from. But yeah, that would be like a really ideal immersion for me, to be doing that.
That's great. And this is a random question, but I don't know, is it hard to practice German? Because I feel like German speakers speak such good English. Every single German speaker I've ever met.
Yeah, right. I met one German speaker who did not speak good English and who was not good at speaking German. So, but that was actually ironically in Gdańsk. It was this older gentleman who like randomly asked if we wanted him to take a photo of us, because we were like doing selfies, which we're millennials, we enjoy that. But we were like, oh yeah, sure, that's fine. And then he would just like rapid fire German, and none of us spoke it at that point.
Oh gosh.
And we just could not understand him. Yeah. But I did meet one person in Austria that was that was the like my first great German experience, was that we had like a 15-minute conversation on a cable car. It was just the two of us. It was a small cable car, and he was an instructor in whatchamacallit, parachuting or paragliding.
Wow.
So, and he didn't speak English pretty much at all. So we spoke in German, and that was great. But yeah, I know some people not well, but I do know some people who speak German. There are some German immigrants living in the Amherst area, so they do sometimes come to the library. But since the library was closed for the last 15 months, I haven't seen them. But one of them did come in Monday, which was the first day we were open again. So I said to her that I've been wanting to practice more German. So she started speaking German to me, and I was like, all right, here I am.
Yes.
I have to live up to this,
You've said it.
So
yeah.
I said I would do it, so I have to. So yeah, so we spoke a little bit in German.
That's great.
Yeah, so maybe I'll be able to do it more. But yeah, there are more people than I thought. But I'm not friends with any of them. I just know them through the library when they come in.
Yeah, but this is a good point. It's like we have to kind of get out of our bubble if we want to find people.
Yeah.
And start talking with people. And I know I think there's like some websites and apps that are trying to connect bilingual families. I have to remember the name of this one I'm part of, but the idea is to like have this database where you could be like, who else speaks this language in this city I live in, and then find another family to meet up with.
Oh yeah, and that would be like for play dates,
Exactly.
The ideal.
Yeah. So, well, I think we covered a lot about immersion, and I hope everybody feels very well immersed in this topic.
So we
no pun intended.
Yes, we hope you really enjoyed this very immersive discussion.
Yes, deep dive into immersion. And if you think of anything that we forgot, you can let us know. You can email at tfibpodcast@gmail.com, or you can find us on Instagram. I am at The Future is Bilingual.
I just have a personal account. I comment on Heather's account sometimes, so you might see me there.
Sounds good. All right, everyone, take care, and we'll catch you in the next episode.
Thank you so much for listening to this discussion that Marcin and I had about creating an immersive environment. I hope that we gave you some good things to think about, some things to try out, with whether for yourself or for your kids or for your whole family. And despite how long this episode was, I'm sure we've missed points and we forgot to talk about things, or maybe we just don't know about things that would work. So if you have something that you'd like to share, please come find me. I am at The Future is Bilingual on Instagram. If you're not on Instagram, you can send me an email at tfibpodcast@gmail.com, and I can share it out to the community through my Instagram if you're not on there. So please let us know if you have something you want to share, if you have a different thing that works for your family. We would love to just spread good ideas. And we really thank you guys for tuning in and listening today. And we will be back with more episodes in the fall. So take care. Have a great summer, everyone. Stay well.